If you're over 40, mornings may not feel the way they used to. You wake up, but your body feels slow, stiff, or heavy. This video explains why that happens and why, in most cases, it's completely normal. You wake up in the morning and for a moment everything feels fine. Then you try to move. Your back feels tight, your neck resists turning, your knees feel stiff when you stand, your hands feel slower than they used to. You stretch instinctively, hoping the feeling will pass, and after a few minutes it usually does. But the question lingers, why does this keep happening? For many people over 40, morning stiffness becomes a daily experience. It is often subtle at first. It doesn't feel like pain. It feels like resistance, like the body is not fully awake yet, even though the mind is. This can be confusing, especially when sleep felt normal. You went to bed on time, you stayed asleep, you didn't wake up in pain during the night, yet the morning feels heavier than it used to. Many people assume this means their body is breaking down. They blame aging in the most negative sense. They worry about joints wearing out. They worry about arthritis. They worry that this stiffness will only get worse. But morning stiffness after 40 is rarely a sign of damage. In most cases, it is a sign of how the body now transitions between rest and movement. When we are younger, sleep acts like a full system reset. Muscles relax deeply, inflammation drops quickly, circulation remains efficient even during long periods of stillness. You wake up and move without thinking. After 40, the body still repairs itself during sleep. But it does so more slowly, and it prioritizes survival and stability over speed and flexibility. That means the overnight reset is no longer instant. It becomes gradual. The body needs time in the morning to redistribute fluids. It needs movement to warm tissues. It needs circulation to fully restore flexibility. Morning stiffness is often the body saying, "Give me a moment," not "something is wrong." This distinction matters. Because when people misinterpret stiffness as damage, they respond with fear. They avoid movement, they tense up, they become hyper-aware of every sensation. Ironically, this makes stiffness worse. What most people don't realize is that stiffness is highly responsive. It responds to movement, it responds to warmth, it responds to routine. It responds to how you prepare your body for rest the night before. So instead of asking, "Why am I stiff now?" the better question becomes, "What is my body doing differently during sleep?" Once you understand that, the fear begins to fade, and clarity replaces confusion. Morning stiffness is not a single problem with a single cause. It is the combined result of how muscles, joints, connective tissue, circulation, and the nervous system behave during long periods of rest. During sleep, the body enters its most inactive state of the entire day. Movement drops dramatically. Muscle activation becomes minimal. Heart rate slows, blood pressure decreases. In younger bodies, this stillness does not cause issues. Circulation remains efficient enough to keep tissues flexible. Fluids move freely in and out of joints. Muscles retain elasticity even without movement. After 40, these systems become slightly less aggressive. Blood flow slows more noticeably during rest, especially to the extremities and deeper joint structures. This allows fluids to accumulate around joints overnight. That is why fingers can feel swollen in the morning. That is why knees and hips feel thick or resistant when you first stand. This fluid buildup is temporary. It is not damage, it is redistribution. Movement helps clear it quickly. Another important factor is connective tissue hydration. Muscles are designed to contract and relax easily, but tendons, ligaments, and fascia rely heavily on hydration to remain flexible. During sleep, these tissues lose some elasticity. In younger bodies, rehydration happens almost immediately upon waking. After 40, that process takes longer. The first movements of the day, therefore, feel restricted, not painful but resistant. This is why stretching feels instinctively helpful in the morning. It restores hydration and elasticity. Low-grade inflammation also plays a role. As we age, the immune system becomes more active during periods of rest. This is not illness, it is part of aging biology. During sleep, especially deep sleep, inflammatory markers can rise slightly. This contributes to the sensation of stiffness rather than pain. Movement reduces this inflammation naturally, which is why stiffness fades as the day begins. The nervous system is another key contributor. Communication between nerves and muscles becomes slightly slower with age. This delay is subtle, but noticeable when transitioning from rest to movement. The brain sends signals to move. The body responds a fraction of a second later. This creates the sensation that the body is lagging. It is not weakness, it is timing. Morning stiffness is therefore not a failure of the body, it is a slower synchronization process. Importantly, stiffness improves with activity. Pain worsens with activity. This difference matters. If movement helps, stiffness is functional. If movement worsens symptoms, something else may be happening. Most morning stiffness after 40 falls into the first category. It is functional. It is temporary. It is adaptable. Sleep position can influence stiffness, but it is rarely the main cause. Mattresses and pillows can contribute, but they are not the whole story. The deeper cause is how the body manages recovery overnight. This is why two people can sleep on the same bed and feel very different in the morning. Their bodies are responding differently to rest. Hydration status matters. Stress levels matter. Evening habits matter. What you do in the hours before sleep affects how stiff you feel when you wake. Because sleep is not isolated, it is part of a 24-hour cycle. Morning stiffness is simply the visible evidence of that cycle. In the next segments, we will explore how sleep stages change after 40. We will talk about nighttime inflammation in more detail, and we will explain why stress and cortisol often peak at the worst possible time. Once you see how these systems connect, morning stiffness stops feeling mysterious and starts feeling manageable. To understand morning stiffness, we need to look closely at what happens to sleep after 40. Sleep is not a single state. It is a cycle made up of different stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. When you are younger, these stages flow smoothly and predictably through the night. Deep sleep occupies a large portion of the early night. This is when physical repair happens most effectively. Muscle fibers recover. Inflammation is reduced. Growth hormone is released to repair tissues. Your body uses this time to reset itself physically. After 40, the structure of sleep begins to change. Deep sleep becomes shorter and more fragmented. Light sleep becomes more dominant. You may not notice this consciously. You may still sleep for the same number of hours, but the quality of physical restoration changes. This matters because deep sleep is where muscles and connective tissues truly relax. It is also where inflammation is actively suppressed. When deep sleep is reduced, the body still rests, but it does not fully reset. This leads to subtle accumulation of tension overnight. Muscles remain slightly engaged, connective tissues remain less elastic. By morning, this unfinished recovery shows up as stiffness. Another change after 40 is how often the brain briefly wakes during the night. These micro-awakenings may last only seconds. You usually do not remember them. but each one slightly disrupts deep sleep. This prevents long, continuous repair cycles. Your body keeps switching between rest and alertness. This makes recovery less efficient. Stress hormones also interact with sleep stages. Cortisol naturally rises in the early morning to help you wake up. After 40, cortisol can rise earlier than it should. Sometimes it rises during the night. This interrupts deep sleep. It also increases muscle tone. That means muscles do not fully relax overnight. They remain subtly tense. This tension is not painful, but it contributes to morning stiffness. REM sleep also changes with age. REM sleep is important for nervous system recovery. It helps reset muscle coordination and timing. When REM sleep is shortened or fragmented, the brain-body connection feels less smooth in the morning. Movements feel slower. Coordination feels slightly off. This adds to the sensation that your body needs time to warm up. Importantly, these changes do not mean sleep is failing. They mean sleep is adapting. The body becomes more protective with age. It prioritizes stability over deep shutdown. This is why sleep becomes lighter and why the body is less willing to completely let go. Morning stiffness is often the price of that protection. It is a side effect of a system designed to keep you alert and safe. Even sleeping longer does not always solve this, because longer sleep does not automatically mean more deep sleep. In fact, longer periods of stillness can increase fluid accumulation in joints. This can make stiffness feel worse. This explains why some people feel stiffer after sleeping in, not because sleep is bad, but because stillness lasted longer than the body prefers. This is also why gentle movement upon waking is so effective. It helps transition the body out of protective mode. It restores circulation. It rehydrates tissues. It signals the nervous system that the day has begun. Understanding this reframes morning stiffness completely. It is not a sign of decline, it is a sign of a different sleep architecture. Once you know this, you stop fighting your body and start working with it. Another major reason stiffness feels worse in the morning is timing. The body follows daily rhythms. Inflammation follows these rhythms too. Inflammatory activity tends to rise at night. This is normal. At night, the immune system becomes more active. It performs maintenance and surveillance. After 40, this nighttime inflammatory response becomes slightly stronger. This does not mean disease. It means the immune system is aging. Low-grade inflammation increases during long periods of inactivity. Sleep provides the longest period of inactivity. As inflammation rises, tissues become more sensitive. They also retain more fluid. This combination creates stiffness, not sharp pain, not swelling, but resistance to movement. Fluids play a critical role here. During the day, movement pumps fluid through joints and tissues. At night, that pumping stops. Fluid settles in areas of least resistance, often around joints, especially in the spine, hips, knees, and hands. This fluid buildup thickens joint spaces. It reduces smooth movement. When you first wake up, these fluids have not yet redistributed. That is why the first movements feel the hardest. Once you move, circulation increases. Fluids begin to shift. Joints lubricate themselves again. Stiffness fades. This process can take minutes or hours depending on the person. Inflammation and fluids interact closely. Inflammation increases fluid retention. Fluid retention increases stiffness. This cycle peaks in the early morning. That is why symptoms are strongest right after waking. Hormones also influence this timing. Cortisol is lowest at night. Cortisol suppresses inflammation. When cortisol is low, inflammation is relatively higher. In the early morning, cortisol begins to rise. This helps reduce inflammation. As cortisol rises, stiffness improves. This is why many people feel better by mid-morning. Stress can disrupt this rhythm. Chronic stress elevates cortisol at night. This interferes with deep sleep. But it can also blunt the morning cortisol rise. This delays inflammation reduction, making stiffness last longer. This is why stressful periods often worsen morning symptoms. Hydration also matters more than people realize. Mild dehydration increases tissue stiffness. Many people go to bed slightly dehydrated. Overnight fluid loss through breathing makes this worse. This contributes to morning resistance in muscles and joints. Drinking water in the morning helps more than people expect. It restores tissue hydration. It supports circulation. It accelerates stiffness reduction. Importantly, none of this suggests damage. These are reversible processes. They are dynamic. They respond to movement, hydration, and routine. The body is not stuck, it is temporarily stiff. Understanding this removes fear. Fear increases muscle tension. Tension increases stiffness. Calm awareness does the opposite. It allows the body to transition smoothly into movement. Morning stiffness is therefore not a warning sign for most people. It is a timing issue. It is a rhythm issue. It is a signal that your body needs a gentle transition from rest to activity. In the next segments, we will explore how stress, posture, and nighttime habits influence this process even more, and how small changes can dramatically reduce how stiff you feel in the morning. One of the most underestimated causes of morning stiffness after 40 is stress. Not dramatic stress, not panic or anxiety attacks, but low-level, constant tension that never fully turns off. After 40, the nervous system becomes less flexible. It does not switch between on and off as easily as it once did. During the day, this helps you stay alert and responsible. At night, it creates problems. When you sleep, your body is supposed to enter a parasympathetic state. This is the state of deep relaxation. Muscles soften, breathing slows, inflammation decreases, repair begins. But chronic stress interferes with this shift. The body remains partially alert even while asleep. Muscles never fully relax. The jaw stays tight. The shoulders remain slightly lifted. The lower back holds tension. This tension is subtle. You do not feel it consciously during sleep, but your body feels it when you wake up. Cortisol plays a central role in this process. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but its real job is regulation. It helps control inflammation. It helps control blood sugar. It helps manage energy. Cortisol should be low at night and gradually rise in the morning. After 40, this rhythm becomes fragile. Chronic stress can push cortisol higher at night. This prevents full muscle relaxation. It also disrupts deep sleep. At the same time, cortisol may not rise efficiently in the morning. This delays the reduction of inflammation. The result is stiffness that lingers longer after waking. This is why people often say they feel wired but tired. The body never fully shut down, and it struggles to fully start up again. Mental stress and physical stiffness are closely linked. When the mind is tense, the body follows. When worries continue into bedtime, muscles subtly contract. Even thoughts that feel manageable can create physical tension. This tension accumulates overnight. By morning, the body feels guarded, as if it has been bracing itself all night. This is not a personal failure. It is biology. The aging nervous system becomes more protective. It holds tension to maintain stability. Unfortunately, stability feels like stiffness in the morning. Breathing patterns also change with stress. Shallow breathing increases muscle tension, especially in the neck and upper back. During sleep, shallow breathing limits oxygen delivery. This slows tissue recovery, which increases morning tightness. People who grind their teeth or clench their jaw often experience neck stiffness. This is another stress signal. The body expresses stress physically when it cannot release it mentally. Sleep becomes lighter, micro-awakenings increase. The body never reaches full restoration. Morning stiffness is the physical evidence of this incomplete shutdown. Importantly, this does not mean you need to eliminate stress completely. That is unrealistic. It means the body needs clearer signals that it is safe to relax. Evening routines matter here, not dramatic routines, simple, predictable ones, signals that tell the nervous system the day is over. Lower light, slower movements, less stimulation. These cues reduce nighttime cortisol. They allow muscles to let go. They make morning stiffness less severe. Understanding this shifts the focus away from blaming the bed or blaming age and toward calming the nervous system, because a calm nervous system creates a softer morning. Another surprising contributor to morning stiffness after 40 is stillness itself. We often assume rest is always beneficial, but prolonged stillness has consequences, especially as the body ages. When you sleep, you remain in similar positions for long periods. You may turn occasionally, but overall movement is minimal. In younger bodies, tissues tolerate this easily. In older bodies, prolonged stillness reduces tissue glide. Muscles shorten slightly, fascia becomes less elastic. Joint lubrication decreases. This does not cause injury, but it creates resistance. Posture during sleep matters more after 40, not because posture causes damage, but because it influences how tissues adapt overnight. If the spine remains in one position too long, stiffness increases. If hips are flexed for hours, hip flexors tighten. If shoulders are rounded, upper back stiffness appears. This is why stiffness often feels worse in areas stressed during the day. Desk work tightens hips and upper back. Sleep locks those positions in place. By morning, tissues resist movement. This is not degeneration, it is adaptation to stillness. Mattresses and pillows influence this process, but they are not the primary cause. A perfect mattress cannot eliminate stiffness entirely because stillness itself is the main factor. This explains why people feel stiffer after naps. Even short naps reduce movement. The body stiffens quickly when inactive. After 40, recovery from stillness takes longer. This is why gentle movement is so effective. Not aggressive stretching, not forcing flexibility, but slow, controlled motion. Walking, light mobility, warm showers. These restore tissue glide. They reintroduce circulation. They reverse stillness-related stiffness. Some people believe sleeping longer will reduce stiffness. Sometimes it does. Often it does not, because longer sleep equals longer stillness. This is why sleeping in can backfire. You wake up feeling more rigid than usual, not because sleep was harmful, but because tissues were inactive longer. This does not mean you should sleep less. It means sleep quality and timing matter more than duration alone. Another overlooked factor is muscle temperature. Body temperature drops at night. Cooler muscles are less flexible. In the morning, muscles are colder. This increases stiffness. As body temperature rises, flexibility improves. This is why warmth helps so much. Warm showers, warm rooms, gentle activity. They raise tissue temperature. They reduce resistance. This also explains why stiffness feels worse in colder environments and better in warmer climates. The body is responding to physics as much as biology. Importantly, stillness-related stiffness is reversible. It does not mean loss of function. It means delayed readiness. Once you move, tissues adapt quickly. The body is not fragile. It simply needs a different transition now. In the next segment, we will discuss what truly matters most, how to distinguish normal stiffness from warning signs, and how to know when stiffness is just part of aging and when it deserves attention. By this point, it should be clear that morning stiffness after 40 is extremely common. It is experienced by people who are healthy, by people who exercise, by people who sleep well, and by people who have no diagnosed joint problems. In most cases, stiffness is a normal response to aging, sleep patterns, reduced circulation, low-grade inflammation, and prolonged stillness. But it is still important to know where the line is, because not all stiffness is the same. Normal morning stiffness has specific characteristics. It improves with movement, it fades gradually, it does not produce sharp pain, it does not worsen as the day goes on. It feels like resistance rather than injury. It feels like the body needs time, not treatment. This type of stiffness usually peaks in the first minutes after waking, then slowly decreases over the next hour, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but always moving in the direction of improvement. Normal stiffness does not limit your ability to function later in the day. You can still walk, you can still bend, you can still perform daily tasks. Your range of motion returns once you warm up. This is a key sign that the stiffness is adaptive, not pathological. Another sign of normal stiffness is variability. Some mornings feel worse than others. Stressful days often lead to stiffer mornings. Poor sleep leads to stiffer mornings. Cold environments increase stiffness. Busy days with a little movement increase stiffness. This variability tells us the system is responsive, and responsive systems can be improved. On the other hand, stiffness that deserves attention behaves differently. It does not improve with movement, or it worsens as you move. It is accompanied by sharp pain or burning sensations or numbness. It may be associated with visible swelling that does not subside. It may limit movement throughout the day. It may wake you up at night with pain. It may feel progressively worse over weeks or months. These signs suggest something more than normal aging. They do not automatically mean something serious, but they deserve evaluation. The key difference is persistence. Normal stiffness is temporary. Concerning stiffness is persistent. Normal stiffness respects the rhythm of the day. Concerning stiffness does not. Age-related stiffness still allows the body to adapt. Pathological stiffness resists adaptation. Understanding this distinction reduces fear. Fear amplifies pain. Fear increases muscle tension. Fear makes stiffness feel worse than it is. When people fear their morning stiffness, they move less. When they move less, stiffness increases. This creates a negative loop. Education breaks that loop. Once you know what is normal, you stop catastrophizing, and once catastrophizing stops, the body relaxes. This alone can reduce stiffness significantly. It is also important to recognize that stiffness can coexist with health. You can be strong and still feel stiff in the morning. You can be active and still need time to warm up. These things are not mutually exclusive. After 40, the body shifts its priorities. It favors stability over speed, protection over flexibility. This does not mean decline. It means adaptation, and adaptation can be supported not by forcing the body, but by respecting its new rhythms. Morning stiffness is not your body failing you. It is your body communicating with you. It is saying that the transition from rest to movement now takes more care than it used to. When you were younger, the body moved effortlessly between states. After 40, transitions matter more. The transition into sleep and the transition out of it. Stiffness is simply what happens when that transition is rushed or misunderstood. The mistake many people make is trying to eliminate stiffness completely. That is not realistic. The goal is not to wake up feeling 20 again. The goal is to wake up feeling functional, capable, and at ease. Once you stop fighting stiffness, it loses much of its power. When you expect your body to need time, you give it permission to adjust. That permission reduces tension. Reduced tension improves circulation. Improved circulation reduces stiffness. This is not positive thinking. It is physiology. Small changes make a large difference here. Gentle movement instead of abrupt motion. Warmth instead of cold shock. Hydration instead of rushing into caffeine. Calm breathing instead of immediate stress. These are not dramatic interventions, but they work because they respect the body's needs. Morning stiffness is often a sign that the body wants continuity. It wants the care you give it at night to extend into the morning. When evening routines calm the nervous system, mornings become softer. When mornings are rushed and stressful, stiffness lingers. This connection matters because it means you are not stuck. You are not aging incorrectly. You are simply navigating a different biological phase. Once you understand that phase, you gain control again. Not control through force, but control through alignment. Alignment with how the body now functions. This is the deeper message of this video. Stiffness is not a punishment for aging. It is a request for adjustment. And when you respond correctly, the body responds back. If this video helped you understand your mornings a little better, you're not alone. The next videos in this playlist will explore simple ways to support your body through sleep and recovery after 40. Move gently. Rest wisely, and give your body the time it now needs.